Hey guys, this finally came in the mail today. I'm excited. I just want to share the moment with you. Those of you who grew up with me in Logansport, Indiana, you never would have imagined this envelope would have come to my mailbox today. Mrs. Gallmer and some of the other teachers who I'm friends with on Facebook who may be seeing this definitely would have never expected this envelope would come to my house today. Now, I'm going to make a very long story short, and actually, this story directly relates to you and what you're going through this week. I grew up in Logansport, a poor kid. I mean, like a lot of people in Logansport, I knew winters without heat. I knew times without food. I grew up in a broken home, like a lot of kids do, and with all the challenges of life, school was just not anything that I was concerned about or what that was important to me. Um, in fact, I really worked hard for this one GPA. Let me show you this GPA real quick. I brought up here one semester in high school. Look at this GPA. My GPA was 0.666. That was the low point in my high school career, but not too much low. Look at my cumulative there, 0.8667 at that point. Um, you know, just school wasn't necessarily important. There were a lot of things going on in my life. And it would have been easy for me to allow my life situation to write my story. I could have easily played the stereotypical role of a kid that comes from a broken home who's poor. I could have easily, played that stereotypical role of allowing, others to bail me out my whole life or whatever that may, you know, transpire from that broken cycle. But between the encouragement of a teacher and my girlfriend, who's now my wife, something clicked in me about my junior year of high school. And I can remember at the end of my junior year of high school, going down to the basement of Logansport High School in Logansport, Indiana, and I was excited. And I went down to my guidance counselor. I'm not going to mention his name here. I think he's long passed, but I was excited. I'm like, show me. I want to go to college. Help me get into college. And I remember sitting in his office, and he laughed. He laughed hard. And I can remember to this day him sitting there laughing at me. And it would have been easy to point that out and allow that pivoting point in my life to define me, to write my story. I could have fallen back into the stereotypical role and allowed that portion of my life to be written because that is what everyone expected out of me. But instead, it's my life, it's my story. I wanted to write a different chapter, and I found a way to go to some college prep classes to finally get accepted at IUK, to get my grades up enough to get accepted at Purdue, to get my grades accepted up well enough to go to Butler University, where I made A's, was on the dean's list several times, and had a great career in broadcasting for a number of years. I could have let somebody else write my life story, but it's my life, and ultimately I write it, or I'm allowing somebody else to write it. Therefore, I'm ultimately writing it then as well. The second chapter was better than the first because I chose to write a different story. This past year took another pivot point in my life. For the first time, I've never been in trouble, never been written up for anything in my life. I've always done well, but this last year, I was let go from a position that had nothing to do with me. And I could have allowed that to define my life. I could have focused on my anger or my resentment or the end of a dream. I could have focused on all of those pains, but instead I decided to write a different story. And this is where this came in. And I'm going to be embarrassed if this is not what I think it is, but I'm excited. I wanted to share it with you. So I'm going to open it up real quick here because this is the beginning of another chapter. I went back and I earned my third master's degree from the University of Southern Indiana, an MBA. So that kid that made a 6.666 GPA in Logansport High School earned his master's degree, his master's in business administration with a 4.0. I also have half of my doctorate degree work done now. You know, that is a much different story than the story that was being written at the beginning of the novel that is my life. So how does this all relate to you? Well, it relates to you because it's Monday. And I don't know what you're dealing with, but I know a lot of you are dealing with a lot of junk this week. Some of you are dealing with a lot of challenges at work, deadlines that need to be made, challenging relationships with coworkers, challenging relationships with your boss. Others of you are dealing with challenges with kids, with your family, with your spouse. You're wrestling with maybe financial issues, resentment issues, forgiveness issues. And I just wanted to remind you that no matter what you're going through this week, that you're writing your story. It's your life and it's your story. And how the end of the story winds up is dependent upon how you write it, nobody else. This week, as you're thinking about your decisions and the challenges that you're going through, I just want to encourage you to remember that this is your life. This is your story. You write the chapters of your life. Nobody else. Nobody else has the ability to write the chapters of your life. Don't look to what others are saying. Overcome your challenges and have a great week, guys. We love you. We'll talk to you later.